Good day, everyone. I am preparing this recorded video so that you can prepare in advance for the topics that we're going to tackle this semester. So let's have illegal gambling. This is governed by PD 1602. So what is gambling? So when we talk about gambling, it refers to any game or scheme, whether upon chance or skill, wherein wagers consisting of money, articles of value, or representative of value are at stake. If you notice, this would refer to any kind because it involves a scheme, provided there is a wager, either a money, articles of value, or representative of value are at stake with that kind of scheme or game engaged by different persons or a group of persons. The penalty to be imposed for those engaged in gambling shall be prisión correccional in its medium or a fine ranging from 1,000 to 6,000 pesos. That is as far as the first offenders are concerned. And in case of recidivism, in other words, you were arrested again engaging in illegal gambling, the penalty is a little higher, as the same shall be prisión mayor in its medium period or a fine ranging from 5,000 to 10,000 pesos shall be imposed upon whom? So who are liable for gambling? Any person other than those referred to in the succeeding subsections who in any manner, directly or indirectly, take part in any illegal or unauthorized activities or games. So in other words, we have the so-called gambling or game which are prescribed under the law, but what is governed and is punishable under the law are the so-called illegal or unauthorized activities or games. So let's start with the legal one. You know for a fact that we have PCSO. We have the Philippine Games and Amusement Board. We have our chief executive who on some instances would issue permits to the holding of some games or activities. If a game or activity is governed by the PCSO such as Lotto, Mega Lotto, Super Lotto, and even Suertres, they are authorized games. But you have to be careful as well because there are many Suertres or STL operations which are unauthorized, meaning to say, does not have the permit from the PCSO. Now, how about, I forgot about PAGCOR. So if you are engaged in games or activities governed and in or with the PAGCOR, those are authorized activities. And for chief executives, especially during fiestas, some of it will be holding sports activities or even cockfighting. So within those authority, as far as the permit issued by the chief executive is concerned, so those are authorized activities. So let's go back to unauthorized. So other than those I've mentioned, then it could be illegal or unauthorized activity, such as cockfighting. So as far as cockfighting is concerned, maybe you are familiar and have seen some cockpit arena. They have their licensed cockpit and they are only allowed to conduct cockfighting on a particular day. So that is on their permits, specifically on Sundays. Now, if the permit of that cockpit arena was done other than the authorized day, even if the same is done in the cockpit arena, having conducted it on a day other than the authorized day, then that would still make the game or activity illegal or unauthorized. You also have their wetting, high ally, or horse racing, and it may include bookie operations and game fixing, numbers, bingo, and other forms of lotteries. So when are these liable? Because or punishable? Because they are not governed by PAGCOR, they are not sanctioned by the Games and Amusement Board, nor was there a permit issued by the Chief Executive. You also have their Cara y Cruz. So it is commonly known as Hantak. You have their Pompiang and the like, 7-Eleven, and any game using dice, blackjack, lucky nine, poker, and its derivatives, Monte, Baccarat, Kwahaw, Panggenge, and other card games, Paeke, high and low, Mahjong, domino, and other games using plastic tiles and the like. You also have their slot machines, roulette, pinball, and other mechanical contraptions and devices. Who could think about dog racing, boat racing, car racing, and other forms of races, and even basketball, boxing, volleyball, bowling, ping pong, and other forms of individual or team contests to include game fixing, point shaving, and other machinations. Now, if you notice, there are familiar games enumerated under the law. Now, they are punishable if you have their wagers during the conduct of this activity and there is no permit issued for the conduct of said activity. You also have their banking or percentage game or any other game or scheme, whether upon chance or skill, wherein wagers consisting of money, articles of value, or representative of value are at stake or made. So simply put, sugal. Now, what other things that you can think of that exists or is being undertaken in your locality, and it is not mentioned here in the enumeration? Now, take note that they have their variants, derivatives. Now, I came across to prosecute a case called buleche. What is buleche? They are actually some sort of bingo, but instead of using the bingo cards, they are actually using playing cards. So that's how the initiative of the Filipinos works. Of course, they were arrested because there is wager involved in the conduct of the activity. Now, there are many, prior to the passage of 1602, there are actually many penal laws governing individually this kind of gambling. But for now, the law in effect to govern illegal gambling is PD 1602. What would happen to the previous or earlier penal laws prior to 1602? The law says that they are amended as far as their inconsistent provision is concerned. Hence, as to the legality on the days to which cockfighting shall be held, the same is true. You also have their game fixing, point shaving, because here, if you notice, there is no definition as far as these particular terms are concerned. So we relate this to the previous laws governing said gambling because the definition there is not inconsistent with 1602. Now, the penalty that we have mentioned earlier is actually a penalty imposed upon the participants. Now, I go back to that directly or indirectly participating. When we say directly, you actively participated in the game. So if it is a basketball, then maybe you are one of the players. You are the referee, for example. How about indirectly? Because we are also very fond of side bet. Example, if your money is not that enough to place your bet, maybe you had your bet lumped up with another better, meaning to say side bet. And now you are now actually indirectly participating. So there is still that participation on your part, even if not directly as the actual player, but then you are covered under the law because it says there directly or indirectly participating in the game. Now, who else are liable aside from those actually directly and indirectly participating in the game? Any person who shall knowingly permit any form of gambling referred to in the preceding subparagraph to be carried on in inhabited or uninhabited place or in any building, vessel, or other means of transportation owned or controlled by him. In other words, the owner or the maintainer of the place to where the gambling took place shall also be liable. Now, take note that it is not limited to any place or building, as it may include a vessel or other means of transportation owned by that person. If the place where gambling is carried on has a reputation of a gambling place, or that prohibited gambling is frequently carried on therein, or the place is a public or government building or barangay hall, the malefactor shall be punished by prison correctional maximum and a fine of 6,000 pesos. So basically, paragraph 2 makes the person liable who furnishes or owns the place to where this illegal gambling or activity was done. Now, the penalty of prison correctional in its maximum period or a fine of 6,000 pesos shall be imposed upon the maintainer or conductor of the above gambling schemes. So the maintainer or the conductor, the referee is governed under paragraph 3. So we have there the penalty of prison mayor medium with temporary absolute disqualification or a fine of 6,000 pesos. If the maintainer, conductor, or banker, kinsa man ni si banker, if it is a card game, the one who shuffles and gives the cards of said gambling scheme is a government official, or where such government official is himself the player, promoter, referee, umpire, judge, or coach in case of game fixing, point shaving, and machination. So that is the penalty, and it carries with it temporary absolute disqualification. Now, paragraph D actually gives us a scenario wherein a person shall be liable if he possesses any lottery list, paper, or other matter containing letters, figures, signs, or symbols pertaining to or in any manner in the games of weteng, high alay, or horse racing, bookies, and similar games of lotteries and numbers which have taken place or about to take place. We can decipher that in paragraph D, you have there the presumption of being involved in the illegal number games if you are there in possession of these paraphernalias. Now, as far as the barangay official is concerned, now take note that in a place where this illegal gambling is taking place, the first official who has a first-hand information as far as the conduct of these illegal activities is, of course, they're the barangay officials. So, what would happen if the barangay official, despite his knowledge of the existence of that gambling house or place under his jurisdiction, he fails to abate the same or take action in connection therewith, he shall be penalized with a penalty of temporary absolute disqualification. Further, Section 1 also punishes any security officer, security guard, watchman, private or house detective of hotels, villages, buildings, enclosures, and the like, which have the reputation of a gambling place or where gambling activities are being held, shall be penalized with prison correctional maximum or a fine ranging from 500 to 2,000 pesos. Now, take note that it's easy to know that an illegal gambling activity is taking place if you can see it or if it is done in public. But take note that the law actually punishes as well enclosures. So meaning to say, it is not limited to being conducted in public. But as far as arrest is concerned, it's actually another thing, especially if it is done in an enclosure. So maybe it would involve surveillance activities by the men in uniform. Now, since our gamblers are actually also very discreet on their activities, Section 2 provides for informer's reward. So this is actually given to any person who shall disclose information that will lead to the arrest and final conviction of the malefactor shall be rewarded 20% of the cash money or articles of value confiscated or forfeited in favor of the government. So see, you have there the informer's reward, that's 20%. Now, how about isabong? Now, isabong is a form of cockfighting, but it is conducted through the use of ICT. So probably, cockfighting is still covered under this, and you can relate his act committed in relation to cybercrime because you have there a provision in the cybercrime, specifically on Section 6. Crimes punished under the RPC or penal laws committed with the use of ICT is also punishable. So while they have there the so-called authority, as far as isabong is concerned, that was taking place right now, but it is under review and we have to wait for their further decision on what to do with the franchises that they were actually given already to some persons. And I would like to let you know that even prior to COVID, I was already prosecuting a crime for isabong. What happened to that particular case is that the malefactors are actually taking an actual video or footages of an actual cockfighting that is conducted in an authorized cockpit arena. The problem on that particular scenario is that it was the owner of the cockpit arena who sought the help of the CIDG to make these people to have these people arrested. Why? Because the people there, instead of actually going to the arena and place their bets, they are now placing their bet in the isabong. They have there the app. They converted it actually. There is conversion, there is programming. I don't know how they did it, but you have to place your bet online. You are watching it online. You are not there in the actual arena. So as what I have understand on the current situations of Isabong right now, it was not regulated. In fact, it can be done 24/7. That's why there's a big money as far as the persons undertaking this Isabong. That's why many got addicted, because imagine 24/7. So it's actually a waste of many things, because these people are not doing anything because of the Isabong. They had that form of addiction. Now, possible questions on 1602, it can be used only to lay the basis for the application of other related provisions. So, because the provision of 1602 is so basic, and you have there a wide coverage as far as your exams is concerned, they can relate this to other provision. Example, what if the player or the participant is a CICL? So basically, you have to relate this to the provision of 9344. And then exceptions to the law, I've already mentioned this. You have this, if governed by PAGCOR, the GAB, Games and Amusement Board, and those authorized by the Chief Executive. Now, you might be asking, why is gambling punishable, or why is it prohibited? So you have there some cases that you can see on the screen. To repress an evil that undermines the social, moral, and economic growth of the nation. And that is very true, especially on what is happening now on Isabong. Gambling is an act beyond the pale of good morals, which, for the welfare of the people, should be exterminated. It has the effect of causing poverty. That is true. Dishonesty, as far as because in fact it affects the relationship of the husbands and the wives. Fraud and deceit. Many men have neglected their business and mortgaged their integrity to follow the fickle goddess of the cards. Many women have wasted their hours and squandered their substance at the gambling board, while some children were forgotten. US versus Salaveria. So in other words, this addiction of gambling is already rooted in our blood. That's why it really needs to be regulated. So in fact, on what is happening on Isabong right now, it's actually more than the description given to us by US versus Salaveria. I think you have heard on the many people, many sabongeros who cannot be found until now. We can only surmise as to what happened to them. It was held that the playing of monte for money is not a necessary element. It seems that when the law names the games, punishing any person who take part therein, its purpose is to prohibit absolutely those games. So while we knew that one of the elements of illegal gambling is the wager involved in the gambling, but actually, in this case of US versus Rafael, money there was not even considered as a necessary element, because the purpose of the law is really to prohibit absolutely these games. So who have tried playing monte? Now take note, in US versus Palma, a mere bystander or spectator in a gambling game is not criminally liable. That's why on our definition, for the participant, he has to participate directly or indirectly. Meaning to say, if you are just there, a mere spectator, the law does not make you a participant even directly. Hence, you cannot be made liable for illegal gambling. Okay, so that's all for PD 1602. Thank you.